Chapter 8, Derailed. Through further online research, I came across the term derealization, a mental state in which you feel detached from your surroundings, altering your perception of the outside world, making it seem unreal, dissociation from reality, which in turn causes severe stress. And if you dig deeper, there is a subdivision of derealization known as depersonalization, which specifically refers to detachment from your own body and mind, as opposed to the world around you, like you're an outsider looking in, peeking through the blinds inside your own empty house, where someone has turned all of the lights on for some reason. The biggest and probably the only solution to these quirks is to essentially figure your shit out. Not so helpful. And on top of that, I would feel like someone else was there when I was by myself, an unwelcome intruder, a foreign, sinister presence, observing me from within, as I would get that eerie feeling behind my ears. I would have to gather all my courage before I could turn my head around, only to find there was nothing behind me all along. No jump scare waiting for the camera to pan, yet I could still feel something lingering on my body, an unpleasant aftertouch on my skin. I was dragging myself along an autobahn of reality, losing my grip on the road, losing my grasp on reality, moving slow with all my emergency blinkers on, while the other cars were driving at an expected fast pace, just zooming past me while I was still crawling down the highway, unaware and trying not to predict when my car were to completely break down on me. No exit seemed to be in sight to take it to the safety of the local mechanic. Perspiration was taking hold of my hands. The steering wheel I've always known as real life, was once tightly holding on to, was slowly slipping away. Getting dizzy became second nature to me. I would need to sit down and collect my bearings first before I could proceed with whatever I was doing. At times, I felt like I just got off the train after traveling on it for a whole week, and when I looked out, the horizon just kept on moving along, running away from me, the same way as a view from the train window does. Clattering sound of the wheels banging against the rails. Motion sickness. I would have to close my eyes and wait for a few seconds before I could open them again, and the horizon would be there, where you expected it to be, unmoving and stoic. Or I would get sudden, unprompted migraines, my head ready to burst from the sharp nerve pang. The whole room would be spinning like those helicopters you get after a night of heavy drinking, blades brutally rotating, my head ready to take off on its own any second and fly far away. With these vertigo episodes, it was becoming damn near impossible to normally function as a part of the society. I decided to take some time off from work, as I'd accumulated a bunch of PTOs this year. Being an ever hardworking bee in a hive of our united company, a free subscription to online therapy sessions was included in our employee care package, considering the rise of mental health related issues, and signing up for them was strongly encouraged by our HR. Out of sheer desperation, I've decided to give it another try. Second time's a charm, but after a few 1-hour sessions with different therapists, I realized that it's not getting me anywhere. It went the same exact way as the first time I tried therapy, them asking their leading questions, trying to have me admit to how fucked up my childhood was, and deem that as the primary cause of my current system shutdown that somehow resurfaced as deeply suppressed trauma years later. So I gave that up. As for healthy body equals healthy mind approach, exercising was out of the question for me too. In my vegetative state, I was too exhausted to even begin. Losing more energy would make me pass out. I kept binging on food and not gaining any weight, like a grown kid, but without the ball of energy part. I frequented the habit of daydreaming. When I snapped back to my senses, I would end up disoriented for some time, trying to grasp where I was and what I was doing, attempting to recreate in my head what I'd missed. The disturbing part was my newfound mania, the feeling I would get from time to time as if someone was observing me, some presence always there, always in attendance. The lack of sleep for sure was the root of all this novelty evil, not so much visual, but I would get auditory delusions, some subtle pattern of tiny legs, repeatedly, soft stomping around, crawling up and down. So far, yet so close. Paranoia was manifesting in me, taking hold, slowly taking over, carving out its own personal space, a stronghold, a comfy nook inside my existence. Similar to some documentary I've watched about drug addicts, meth specifically, that when they get high, naturally, they get paranoid and manic, sensing that everyone is out to get them, viewing everyone as an authoritative figure, getting ready to break into their settlement, make an arrest, experiencing delusions, expressing aggression. When you walk down the neighborhood and see windows covered with tinfoil, taped on the inside, run, you're in the wrong place. The addicts are hiding there. Under the influence of drug-induced psychosis, they could possess unnatural strength and get extremely violent. Because of my night blindness, I haven't seen Ronnie in a while. Surprised she hasn't called to check up on me. What kind of twin sister is that, letting her brother suffer, go through the ringer on his own, with no moral family support? My body was feeling stiff. It was becoming a chore, an utter hassle to move. Just had to sit and rest, in peace, mind-numbingly relaxed. How many days have passed? How many hours have I slept in a span of those unaccounted for days? I would log on my computer and see a bunch of missed calls, unanswered emails and messages. Was someone concerned about me? But I was too tired to reply, couldn't pull myself together to do it. All the letters and symbols dancing in front of my eyes, and I couldn't put them all together into sentences, dig out the meaning. I'm sure at that point, my requested absence was up and I've started missing work days, unannounced. Such an exemplary employee who fell off the face of the earth all of a sudden. What must my colleagues think was happening to me? How much time has passed? My right arm was barely moving. It was no longer listening to me, like a bratty teen, utterly ignoring parental counseling and guidance. The muscles inside the arm were oblivious to the commands my brain was sending. Luckily, I was a lefty, but it didn't change the fact that the pointy end of a safety pin didn't make me feel anything when it touched the skin on my right arm. Pinching to discern the dream from reality was out of the question. Restlessness from having a numb appendage would make me scratch at it, put needles in, do little cuts with a knife, in hopes that the next wound will make me feel something. Trying anything and everything, but ultimately with no results to speak of. It was as paralyzed as when I started the self-mutilation journey. I would stumble across my room with one limp and caught up arm hanging like an inanimate object, flesh starting to resemble a blood sausage, thinking of my options, dripping my precious O negative on the carpet, the universal blood type that can be safely transfused to anyone who has blood running through their tubes. I would spend long periods of time staring at those cuts, trying to hypnotize myself, will them to disappear, yet it had the opposite effect. The longer I peered at them, the more it felt as if something were about to crawl out of those fleshy wounds, the evil hiding deep underneath. I would sit there, holding my breath, on pins and needles, trying to avert my gaze, zoomed in on the bloody cuts, but failing miserably. The situation has gotten completely out of hand. The right one especially. My mind was off the rails. I couldn't think straight. The locomotive of normalcy was speeding down the grassy knoll towards the edge of the cliff, where the planned bridge had never been built. Would I wake up on impact? The sound, the patter of the grains of sand on the wooden surface, was getting louder. Someone was turning up the volume knob inside my ears. The strange someone was always watching me, probably laughing at my pain and suffering. I tried calling Ronnie, begging for help, but to no avail. I would only get, "The number you have dialed is incorrect or no longer in service" message. Why me?
Dream Parade.